Hi, welcome to Simply Country Cuisine. This is Susie. Going to try something today. It's a cookie recipe, and Mark came in the other day, my husband, and he says, you know how much we love oatmeal raisin cookies? I said, yes. He said, I think I'm inventing one. It's an oatmeal raisin cookie with apples and a cinnamon. And I kind of chuckled and I said, well, I always put cinnamon in the cookies, but I really hadn't made one with apples in it before. So I went on Pinterest and researched and found several that I liked. So the one we're making today, of course it's not my recipe. I did get it off of Pinterest. It doesn't say, it's featured in a book, a cookie cookbook by Nancy Baggett. So we're going to use Miss Nancy Baggett's recipe. And I will read off the equivalents to you. Now let me say something about making cookies from scratch. A lot of times we don't, because it's frustrating, because we have, for a nice hearty autumny type of a cookie, you're gonna have a lot of ingredients. So my suggestion is, read through your recipe, measure your ingredients out as much as you can, then start with your preparation of your cookies, because then you're gonna be a little less frustrated. Many times when I'm making cookies or a cake, I'll say, oh man, I need this, and then I have to stop what I'm doing and go back to the pantry. So I've kind of been learning this. Baking isn't one of my favorite things to do, because baking's a science. Cooking, you have a little bit more freedom with cooking, because if it says a teaspoon of salt, and this family, we like salt, so we might put a teaspoon and a half salt in there, but it's not so much a science. All right, so let's get to going here. So we're gonna start out, and I am gonna have to read the recipe because I've never made this cookie, so this is gonna be just as new to me as it is to you. So I have preheated my oven to 350. And I didn't think you'd want to stand and watch this bloom or rehydrate, but my rosary spoons are magnetic. But in this bowl, it says to combine in a medium bowl 1 cup of raisin, 2/3 cup of chopped dried apples, 1/3 cup of apple juice, and 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. And that's probably to keep it from turning brown. Of course, these are dried apples, so they're kind of already brown. Set it aside and let it rehydrate itself for about 20 minutes. I went ahead and did that. So in my large mixing bowl, I'm going to whisk together 2 1/4 cups of flour, just all-purpose flour. I'm going to measure out 1 cup of quick oats, not the regular oats, but I'm showing you, I left it in here, so we will source this at the end of the video. This is quick oats. All right, we've got 1 cup of quick oats. Okay, put this in. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Measure out a teaspoon of baking soda. And a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. I ordered these new measuring spoons. I kind of like them. They're magnetic. Got them off of Amazon. If you're interested, mention in the comments, and we'll add the link to the bottom of the page. They're kind of nice. The oblong part of the spoon, as you can see, they're magnetic. The oblong part is for dry ingredients, and the round tip is for wet ingredients. All right, so now we've got all of our dry ingredients together. We're going to take our whisk. Oh, and a pinch of salt. But I wrote this down. I'm going to leave the salt out because it's only a pinch. I'm actually using salted butter. The recipe calls for unsalted butter. So I'm just gonna leave the salt out of the recipe. This will have enough in it. And the only reason you put salt in your cakes, pies, cookies, the salt brings out the sweet. It's amazing, I think, how God created that. I don't know how he did that, but I just think that's kind of cool. But anyway, so I'm just going to mix these together with the whisk, get them in there good. So I want to incorporate the oats with the flour. Whoops. And now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. You could use a Vietnamese cinnamon, which is probably a little stronger than this cinnamon. This is a McCormick's brand. So I'm going to kind of maybe do a little bit of a rounded teaspoon. So I'm 1, 2. Now remember, this is a fall cookie. Well, you can eat it anytime you want, but it's mirroring the fall. So we'll get this mixed in. All right, now set this aside in my electric mixer, and I'm going to use the stand mixer because I am going to cream together 1 cup, which is 2 sticks of butter. And again, I'm using salted butter, leaving the salt out of the recipe. And I have pre-measured 1 1/4 cup firmly packed light brown sugar. This will give you the molassesy kind of taste to your cookies because brown sugar has molasses in it. So we'll take this over to the stand mixer. I just think the stand mixer will do better. I think it'll fluff it up a little bit. You want it to come out a little bit fluffy. So I've room temperatured this butter, waiting for Dina to get home. It was perfect timing. Two sticks is a cup. And we're going to add the brown sugar in. Okay. Now this might make a little bit of noise. I'm going to start it off a little bit slow to get it incorporated a little bit. And now I'm going to pick the speed up because I want this butter and this brown sugar to look a little bit fluffy. So while that's working, I'm going to separate 1 egg because the recipe calls for 1 whole egg and 1 yolk. And we're going to add it to this butter sugar mixture. So we have 1 yolk and 1 whole egg. I'm gonna have to set the yolk down here so I don't lose it. I'm scraping the sides down on the sugar and the butter, and I'm gonna turn it on really high now. Now, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of a very, very good quality vanilla. Always use a good quality vanilla. It really does make a difference. And we're going to add the eggs. Now remember, we have 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. Putting that in, and we're going to give that a mix up. All right, now I'm going to mix in half of the flour mixture. I'm going to turn it down a little bit slower because you know if you don't, you're going to get to wear it. So I'm going to put and I'm going to do this part by the mixer. Give it a little bit of speed to incorporate it. Now the rest of it we're going to do by hand. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to add the raisin mixture. Remember now, there's 1 cup of raisins, 2/3 cup of dried apples, and I save 2 out for you to show you. I got the dehydrated apples. My suggestion is to go to a like Whole Foods or what is that market, Dina? Natural Grocery in Cedar Park. H-E-B I had a hard time finding them in H-E-B today, but you can. And this also has, let's see, the apples, the raisins, apple juice, and a little lemon juice. So now I'm going to incorporate this with the lemon juice. The apple juice. Give it a mix up. But now I'm going to have to mix it in by hand. All right, now that we've added the apples and the raisins, we're going to incorporate the rest of the flour. And get it all incorporated together. Now you can actually see the apples, the raisins inside and the oatmeal inside the batter. All right, I think that looks good. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use this spoon. I like to use, remember when we made the other cookies, the last cookie recipe I did, I can't remember what it was. I used, I like to use a cookie scoop. I would say, I'm trying these. I don't know how they're going to come out, how big they're going to come out. So I'm doing a pretty flat scoop. I don't know how much they're going to rise. Okay, now we're going to put these in the oven for 10 to 14 minutes. I thought that was a pretty big span. I remember I said I have a convection oven. It cooks a little faster, but we're going to start it about, we're going to go 10 minutes and check them from there. We want them to be brown. So I'll put two batches in. And I'll see you back here in about 10 to 14 minutes. Okay, now to make the icing for the cookies, which you're going to make now, you can make it now, just set it aside, and when the cookies have cooled, then you can drizzle it over top of your cookies. You can leave it on, you can leave it off, or you can drizzle some off. Now, this is calling for 1 3/4 cup of powdered sugar, okay, that's 1, and I'm going to kind of guess about 3/4. And that's about 3/4. So you've got 1 3/4 cup of sugar. You need about 3 tablespoons of apple juice. I'm going to start with 2 because for you bakers out there, you know, if you get too much liquid in it, then you just got to add more powdered sugar. So let's start with 2 tablespoons first. And we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. This one I will level off. I'm going to take my spoon and stir it up. And this, you want it to be a little bit runny. And it is going to have to take probably that other tablespoon of apple juice. Now, see, that's just too thick. You don't want it, you want to be able to drizzle it. See, there'd be no way you could drizzle that. So now let's go with maybe 1/2 tablespoon. It's getting a little bit thinner. Yeah, that should be good, because we might have to, because we're going to let it sit, we might have to add a little bit more apple juice. So don't put your apple juice away yet. And but we're going to leave this alone till the cookies come out of the oven and cool down just a bit, because you put them on the hot cookies, it's not going to adhere. It'll just roll right off. So I'll be back when the cookies come out of the oven. So now it's the cookies have been in for about 13 minutes now. I'm going to stop the timer. And here are these gorgeous little oatmeal raisin apple cookies. But now remember, now it's too hot to ice. So I'll set them up here, let them cool. And when they cool, we'll come back and we'll drizzle some icing on them and we'll give it a try. Okay, now we're going to get ready to ice the cookies. Now, the icing's set for a little bit. I added a tad more apple juice just to loosen it up, because I want to drizzle across the cookies. So I just take a little bit on my spoon, and I'm just going to just give it a little drizzle. I don't want a lot of icing on them. And it makes them kind of pretty. Oops. And it also drips on the floor. Alrighty, now taste test. All right, now this is my husband Mark, and this is the cookie that he asked me to make. So I'm going to give him the first one, and I want him to try it. Would you please try it? And I'll have one.
How about we try it together?
All right, we can try it together. Ooh, that is good. You can taste the apple, the raisins. What do you think, Mark?
It's awesome.
Is that what you wanted?
It's what I wanted.
All right.
Very tasty.
All right. So I don't have a verse for I mean, I did have a verse for today, but when I was doing my Bible study this morning, but my heart is very heavy for Afghanistan and the 13 military that we lost. Please keep the family in prayers. And if you don't have a place to worship this Sunday, please join us at GT Leander Assembly, the church on the hill across from the post office. We would love to see you there. Thank you for joining us for making our apple raisin oatmeal cookies.